Hello and welcome to the Amplify Digest. I'm your host, Lars Schmidt, and as always, the digest is supported by my friends at PIN, the internal communications tool for the distributed workforce. Let's dig right in. As always, each week, all the articles I'm about to walk you through, you can find the full links in the blog post so you can go deeper in all of these resources, which I encourage you to do. That's why I curated them. So kicking things off, we're having a lot of conversations right now, especially in the US, about vaccine mandates. Lots of conversations around the recent Biden administration ruling around companies over 100 employees requiring vaccines. Obviously, there's still parts of the US that are hesitant about vaccines. And this is a really interesting thread from Andy Slavitt about one particular organization in the Midwest that he had ongoing conversations with their CEO about how their employees have responded to vaccine mandates, which I think they mandated actually before the administration's announcement. So an interesting glimpse into, especially in middle America, places where you might expect there might be some more vaccine hesitancy, give you an idea of one particular case study and how that unfolded. First Round, I think, is probably one of my top 5 blogs for just really high value content. And this article is no exception. Lots of really good tips in here, both around scale and other areas. So again, I think particularly for those of you in HR roles, it's really important that you're diversifying your sources and input and getting outside of our HR bubble to get content from places like First Round, although they do have a lot of HR and talent content as well. But this one's definitely worth your time. I'm beginning to really dig what Remote is building. So I'm actually interviewing their CEO, Yob, on the podcast on Monday. So you'll definitely want to check that out. But here is their open source employee handbook on all things remote. And so again, I think a lot of you are still in the process of determining your plans, remote, hybrid, somewhere in between. And so for many of you, you're doing this for the first time. And so getting access to resources like this is invaluable for you to just get a sense of what other companies are doing and how they're framing it. So this one is definitely worth your time and a bookmark. There's some legislation, particularly in the US, of companies requiring compensation transparency on job postings. So I think that's in effect for 2 states right now. Another state's going to be added next year. And I've been an advocate for pay transparency for years. And so my recommendation is don't wait for legislation to require you to include compensation. Just do it up front. It saves everybody time. There's really no valid reasons why you would not do that. And the upside far outweighs any of the challenges or issues associated with including compensation. So again, this article is helpful and it may give you an indication as to what's to come if more states begin to adopt similar legislation. Here's a really interesting article with Coinbase Chief People Officer LJ Brock, just about how you can maintain and build culture in a fully distributed environment. I had LJ on the podcast last year after they announced their move to fully distributed and talked about some of the HR thinking behind that, how they're going to manage it, how they're going to run it. And so this is another thoughtful piece from LJ. I really appreciate his build in public approach to what he's doing at Coinbase. So there's another piece that's definitely worth your time, particularly as I think a lot of you that are in the process of transitioning to remote and distributed are still kind of, navigating what that means for building culture and how you do that in that new environment. I've talked the last couple episodes about organizations that are really cleverly using Notion. And here's a great example from a company called Capchase as well around their story on building their organizational culture. And it's a really detailed and thorough look into the evolution of the organization and the business and the culture and the people. And I think content like this really resonates with candidates. It allows them to go deeper beyond what do you do? Who are your investors? Where are you located? And really get a better sense for how you operate, what you value, how you make decisions, how you treat your employees, that kind of thing. And so again, Notion's a free platform for you to be able to do that. So a great tool for those of you, particularly in early stage startups that might not have a lot of funding or resources for broader kind of more hyper design campaigns. And again, Microsoft's CEO has been really on fire lately with some great content around shifting to hybrid and remote work constructs. And so this was an interview they did around care being the new currency in hybrid working. And he raises some really valid points there. So again, as most of you are navigating hybrid to some extent, another great resource. It's worth your time and perhaps a bookmark as well. And then also Dan Spalding, the Chief People Officer for Zillow, wrote this piece on how they're kind of removing location from the equation when considering compensations. And this is something that I think a lot of us have been grappling with. Do you have kind of geo-targeted compensation? Do you have one band? Do you have regional bands? There's no right answer there. Every organization is having to kind of navigate what's best for them, and you can make business cases and, for each of those constructs. But this is what they're doing, and Dan gives a thoughtful overview as to why they're making those decisions at Zillow. And then this week on the podcast, it was really fun to sit down with Amy Shepard. Amy is Amy Shepard. That was her maiden name. Amy Thompson is her name. Sorry, we used to work together way back in the day at Ticketmaster. But she's tremendous. She is the former Chief People Officer at Tom's, was an HR executive at Starbucks, now is the Chief People Officer at Mattel, and really shares her story of HR transformation at Mattel. And she and her team are doing some pretty incredible things. I've always admired her leadership. And as a friend, it was great to be able to reconnect on this podcast as well. So you definitely want to check out Amy Thompson's podcast on redefining HR. And then I also wanted to flag just two other quick things in closing. One is I've launched a new campaign within Amplify called the Amplify Story Lab. And the aim here is to spotlight stories from practitioners about what it's been like to navigate the world of work and the field of HR over the last 18 months. We've had such a unique front row seat to everything that's been happening. And so here's a series that's based on 1-minute audio clips from practitioners around the world sharing their experience. So if you want to share yours, you can just go to the website. There's a brief survey to fill out to upload your audio. And I would love to hear it. So definitely check that out. And again, consider contributing because I really want to bring more awareness to what the experience of our field has been over the last 18 months. And then lastly, Friday is the deadline to register for the the Charli cohort of the Amplify Accelerator. It's shaping up to be an incredible course, incredible class, amazing guest instructors, including Katie Burke from HubSpot, Claude Silver from VaynerMedia, Dr. Aaron Thomas from Upwork, and George Laroque from WorkTech. So it's going to be an amazing experience. If you are curious or you want to check it out, go to the link. You can learn all about the program, past reviews from alumni, and much more. But be sure to secure your seat by Friday because we're kicking off Monday, October 4th, and Friday is the registration deadline. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely check out those articles in the blog post. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you next week.